It's no secret that I love a good female character in anime. Hell, so much of the DNA of my channel is heavily advocating for Marcille, Coco and the girls of Witch Hat Atelier, Frieren, Fujimoto's many heroines, and other girlies that make up the landscape of modern fantasy anime and manga. And I've spent a lot of my time watching anime defending underappreciated or maligned female characters, and how it's their writing that time and time again paints them in a bad light with the fans of their respective series. But there's one character in anime that I haven't really talked about yet that I'd like to take the opportunity to touch on today, and that's one of my new surprise favorite main characters in an ongoing series, and that is Maomao from Apothecary Diaries. I'm brand new to the world of Apothecary Diaries, but I almost can't help but write about it, even just half a season in. And for anyone completely caught up with both seasons, do keep in mind that I'm speaking from a place of total ignorance to what happens later on in the story. Apothecary Diaries should not work as well as it does. The series is a historical drama set in a fictionalized version of Tang Dynasty China, and this fairly grounded setting really breathes some fresh air into what is traditionally a quote-unquote fantasy anime. Apothecary Diaries really blurs the lines between being a sort of medieval slice of life while also flirting with some otherworldly or mystical elements before usually revealing that there's a rational explanation behind everything that might seem out of the ordinary. In Apothecary Diaries, ghosts, curses, murders are all explained believably by science. And you know what else is explained believably by science? Your quality of life improving with a good night's sleep. Which brings us to the sponsor of today's video, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep make the world's best sleep masks with 100% blackout even in direct sunlight. Each mask is fully adjustable to fit your face perfectly and is lightweight and comfy enough that you'll barely even notice it when your head hits the pillow. Manta Sleep were kind enough to send me the Manta Sleep sound, and I use it to listen to podcasts and calming YouTube video essays as background noise as I go to sleep, and it's been an absolute game changer. Use my code PUNK for 10% off your order, and thanks again to Manta Sleep. Now, let's get back to the video. Apothecary Diaries is refreshing in that it's nothing like a typical anime fantasy, but it's that stark contrast that's really what makes it stand out. In both structure and tone, it has more in common with anime thrillers like Death Note, or even traditional television like Breaking Bad, and the episodic nature of solving these medical emergencies in a self-contained 20 minutes is almost medical drama 101. Maomao is house confirmed. But despite the medicinal nature of these mysteries, there's also a healthy dose of the same sort of underlying political intrigue as what I enjoy in series like Delicious in Dungeon or Witch Hat Atelier. And as Maomao learns to navigate being a servant in a palace full of emperors, concubines, and courtesans, she brings this real street-level everyman attitude to an otherwise Game of Thrones style chess game between the nobles of this world. And Maomao excels in these interactions, not despite her common upbringing, but because of it, and staying 2 steps ahead of nobles is something Maomao is particularly skilled at. This is going to sound weird, but despite obviously being an anime, I find Apothecary Diaries almost avoids a lot of the pitfalls of being written like an anime. So many of the typical tired cliches of long-running series are completely subverted here or just mercifully skipped altogether, leaving us with some really consistently strong bits of character writing. And I suppose we owe that to Apothecary Diaries' origins as Natsu Hyuga's light novel series, before being adapted into both manga and anime long after its initial publication as prose. You know when you're watching a movie and you can clearly tell that some of the dialogue is spoken directly as written from a book? Or when you're watching an anime and you can just tell that a frame is a direct one-to-one representation of a huge double-page panel spread in a manga? It might seem strange, but that's kind of how I feel about Apothecary Diaries and its representation of these characters' interactions. It just feels like something that was first written as dialogue in a light novel with some real narrative intent behind these characters. That's not to say that Apothecary Diaries as an anime is dropping the ball visually, like at all. There's some real moments in this show that have literally stunned me into silence with how beautiful the backgrounds are, and the music. God damn, man, the music is just so good. It all just comes together as this perfect audio-visual package, as tasty as any poison. All that to say, I really love what I've seen of this series so far. But listen, you've seen the title of the video, so I'd like to examine the real reason why I think it's resonated with me and so many others. And that is Maomao. Maomao is the standout character of Apothecary Diaries and honestly would be a highlight cast member in nearly any other anime I can think of as well. Like, seriously, picture your favorite anime and add a Maomao. I guarantee it will be better, that's just math. There's this real depth to Maomao that allows for so many fantastic character moments, in turn charming, surprising, and even completely disarming. Her aloof, clinical demeanor when it comes time to crack a mystery, her realistic outlook to life as a commoner in a world built around the hedonistic whims of the 1%, and her complete nerding out goblin mode when it comes time to partake in her special interests. It all makes for such a great multi-dimensional character that just feels so much more fleshed out than what we typically see in anime. Maomao can go from impressing you with esoteric medical knowledge and the deduction skills of Prime L Death Note, to losing her mind over a weird herb in the grass, to missing every single social cue thrown her way from anyone and everyone in the palace. And it all comes together in this really compelling, really bizarre character that just by all means should not work, but just does. We're introduced to Maomao, and within minutes we're witnessing the worst day of her life. She's immediately kidnapped and sold into slavery. But it's her attitude towards it, a kind of sigh and an oh well, that immediately shatters our expectations. We learn about her aptitude for herbs and poisons, her ability to read, her resourcefulness in using whatever she can in order to help people. Within a single episode, we have a character that is so endearing and just someone you can't help but root for. That wasn't supposed to be a planned pun, but I guess it is now. Maomao is surprising because she breaks the mold of what we typically see as an anime heroine. Maomao strikes a completely different chord than most female main characters in anime, or even beyond it, and that's Apothecary Diaries' biggest strength. Maomao is such a compelling character because she avoids a lot of the stereotypes of typical anime leads regardless of gender, but especially avoids a lot of the traps of how a lot of modern media handles writing a quote-unquote strong female lead. Maomao is a unique kind of selfless in that she knows better from a self-preservation standpoint, but just can't ignore the call to do the right thing. In the early episodes, Maomao risks blowing up her spot to raise the alarm about a poisonous cosmetic powder, and it literally saves the life of Lady Gyokyo's son, and single-handedly plucks her from a life as a human laundromat to the next rung of the ladder, a poison tester. And this promotion is where Maomao begins to thrive. In this world, her knowledge of herbs, poisons, and elixirs is her superpower, and this unique position and its proximity to the nobles of the Verdigris house really starts off the plot of the show in earnest. But just as much as book smarts are Maomao's biggest strength, they'd be nothing without other traits, like her natural intuition, her street smarts from a lifetime of growing up around non-royals, and her empathy to those same exact people. In the palace, Maomao is a girl's girl. She looks out for her friends to all others in the same ill-fated scenario she's in. One of the biggest insights to Maomao as a character is the episode of the garden party, where instead of outright narking on the other poison tester, she just explains the severity of food allergies in a way that would probably terrify anyone, and then feigns ignorance to Jinshi and Gaoshin.
Whatever do you mean? A mere lady-in-waiting wouldn't know.
Instead of getting the other ladies in waiting in trouble, something that could lead to punishment or even worse, Maomao just simply doesn't involve herself. What an unproblematic queen. Maomao isn't just a strong female lead, she's just a strong lead. Her character would be effective if she was a man, sure, she'd be like Tang Dynasty herbalist Shikamaru, but her character is actually improved by the fact that she is a woman navigating her place in this undoubtedly patriarchal world. In most anime, being met with an unjust power hierarchy means that a passionate MC vows to break it. But Maomao is the much more realistic take of being quietly resigned to the structures of power around you. Maomao is painfully aware that speaking out of line could jeopardize her life, so she's savvy enough to just lay low, pay off her debts, avoid drawing too much attention to herself, and just make it out alive. She doesn't look at this empire as something she has any power to change, but rather accepts that the difference she can make is through the quiet, thoughtful rebellion of doing what she can to help those in need. And in a world where it's increasingly apparent that the billionaire 1% ghouls who run the world, however benefits them and their buddies' bottom lines, I think Maomao's worldly fatigue to the way things are is one of the more relatable worldviews of an anime character in 2025. She doesn't want to overthrow the emperor. She doesn't have any delusions of how she's going to miraculously change the world. She just accepts the reality of her situation, that she's just a girl of lowly birth in this scenario. She's just a girl not a threat. At least not yet. I don't know what wild shit's happening in season 2. As Maomao builds connection with the concubines and the nobles of the palace, it's becoming clear that Maomao does have another sort of superpower in this series, and that is connection. What she does have in common with other main characters is that innate sort of anime MC charisma that just draws people into your orbit and makes them want to stay there. And Maomao has that in spades, from the ladies in waiting to the girlies of the brothel and the laundry to Jinshi. Just knowing Maomao has changed everyone's lives for the better. And I think they'll be sure to remember it when the time comes to have Maomao's back in the future. And speaking of Jinshi, I would be remiss not to address the purple-haired elephant in the room. Nothing irks me more than a bad romance in anime. So when Apothecary Diaries introduced Jinshi, I was a little bit skeptical. This beautiful-ass dude is surely cut from the same cloth as a lot of male romance leads that I don't like. And Maomao is going to spend the rest of the series fawning over this guy's every move, right? Yeah, we've seen it 1,000 times before. Well, no. Not at all, actually. Maomao and Jinshi have this incredible dynamic that I never could have expected, and it stems from her being just flatly disinterested in Jinshi in these early episodes. Of course, she's not immune to his physical attractiveness as much as he thinks, but she immediately sees right through his smooth talking and the fact that he's used to weaponizing his looks and charm to get whatever he wants out of women. And Jinshi is so confused at the first instance of someone totally clocking him that he's basically spent the first half of the season in a blue screen of death, just unable to process how this commoner girl hasn't fallen for him like all the others do. We're introduced to Jinshi as a character that's very clearly used to getting his way through conventional attractiveness, his position in relation to the ladies in waiting, and his playful, flirty demeanor that leaves every girl feeling like the only girl in the world. But Maomao has no interest in entertaining Jinshi's whole shtick, and it's not written as this like cynical contempt for men either, but rather as just this unspoken understanding that Maomao is keenly aware of how looks can manipulate people, stemming from her years surrounded by the girls in the brothel. And her self-effacing attitude means that she hasn't even once considered that Jinshi might be genuine, that surely a guy like him wouldn't be interested in a girl like her. Maomao is someone that has traditionally never used looks in that way. One of the series' standout twists so far is this moment where Maomao reveals that she draws on freckles and has always done so as a way to stay undesirable and invisible to men, and like, holy shit. It's a moment where as an audience, we realize that being a young woman working out of seedy brothels and back alleys is a terrifying reality, and one that Maomao found her own sort of outside-the-box solution to. It's a moment where we, as an audience, share Jinshi's admiration for Maomao, where he's stunned to a moment of sympathetic silence. And the more Maomao and Jinshi learn about each other, the more they interact, especially in these moments where they let their guard down about their impossibly different worldviews. There's a very real, genuine affection growing between the two. If anything, Maomao's totally oblivious to seeing that Jinshi's starting to care about her, like, for real. And this slow burn, almost throwback Rumiko Takahashi style romance just hits for me, and I actually can't wait to see where it goes in the rest of this series. I'm having a great time with Apothecary Diaries so far, and I have a lot of catching up to do with the rest of Season 1, and then the entirety of Season 2, and maybe I'll use these videos as a way to kind of document my thoughts and my journey with the series as it goes. As always, my first reactions are available on Patreon with some yaps and speculation and predictions in between. A huge thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members. Their names will be on the screen, and in this time of YouTube making major algorithm changes completely out of nowhere, I really appreciate anyone that supports their favorite small YouTubers, even if it's not me. It's tough being a small creator in these YouTube streets, but it's because of you guys, the viewers, that any of us can even do this at all. So thank you. I'm sure there will be more Apothecary Diaries videos to come because I'm really enjoying this series. So if you like that sort of thing, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the hype. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, I've been Dom. This has been Maomao, and until next time.